Welcome to TLC for the Soul podcast, where soul meets spirit. You have entered into sacred space. I'm your host, Tammy Lynn Chambers, and I'm here to help you shine. Now let's get going on this podcast journey. Hello, friends. Hello, and welcome to the podcast. Happy holiday weekend if you're listening to this when it drops. This is it's a holiday, and obviously not everywhere that you're hearing this, but in the States it's called Memorial Day weekend. But what it is for us, those of you listening, is the start of a new adventure. I'm so excited to share with you. So let's get settled. If you're new to the podcast, welcome to our family, TLC for the Soul. Just sit back and relax and see what you think about our little space here. If you're a returning listener to the podcast, welcome back, family. We are starting on a new adventure for the month of June. I'm excited to share all that's come up in the past hours this morning since I woke up and got all these amazing fun downloads. This will also be coming out in this story. So let me just take a step back because I think we do have a lot of new listeners. My goodness, I'm not a big analytics fan. Like, I think when I was in IT, as long as I was, analytics was like the thing that I disliked the most. It just seems so boring, but I do take a look at my analytics periodically, and we have a lot of new listeners, and they're coming from somewhere else. So I think they may be coming from other platforms that I'm not aware of, like iHeartRadio. I know we have some, Audible, we have some. I've seen a really big spike in listeners over the past month or so. So I want to welcome you all here. My name is Tammy Lynn Chambers. I'm TLC for the Soul. That's the brand. This is I don't even know what we call ourselves. I do all sorts of stuff here because we're multifaceted. I work with spirit guides and totems and angels and deities and dragons, and I work with the spirit world to guide you on your spiritual journey as I'm being guided on my own. And it all comes out through my creative spiritual gifts. And this is part of my service work, my giving back to humanity and to the ascension journey for all of us. This podcast is also multifaceted. It exists in many different locations. We're also on YouTube. And I have a lot of extra content over on YouTube because I actually started the YouTube channel first. So there's about 100 light language videos over on the YouTube channel. It's also TLC for the Soul. Those were all pre-podcast videos, timeless activations, and all of that good stuff. So if you're interested in anything like that, you can explore that part. I'm also an author of channeled fiction. All these metaphor stories that we're telling, including the ones that we tell on the podcast every month, are channeled via like automatic writing, like a stream of consciousness writing, where I go into sacred space and I invite in my guides and I invite in these personas, these spirits, these otherworldly beings to come and tell me their story. And it always is in relation to where I am and where you, the listener, or potentially the reader, are on your journey and on your path. So we only invite in stories of the highest vibrational love and light. And I invite you to join me now around the sacred circle as I wrap us all in love, light, and light love. Inviting in the spirit guides, totems, angels, wisdom keepers, messengers, plant allies, whoever wants to join me, any of my guides that want to step in and join me on this podcast journey for this episode today. You can take your listening experience an octave higher, invite in your own spirit guides, deities, goddesses. The Norse pantheon has been showing up quite frequently lately. So I know I have a giant who has been like following me around, and I have to find out who this giant is. So the Norse mythology is starting to come into the podcast, and I want to bring us now into what is starting to be, I hope, a really fun month of June. So if you didn't listen to the June forecast, and even if you did, even if you didn't, whatever, I'll kind of paraphrase a part of it here for what's happening today. So today we are reading. Every Sunday I do record what I just call ASMR storytelling. They are the metaphor stories. They are channeled stories, just like all my books. All of my books are out there in ebook format. A lot of what we've done here on the podcast with the Bringers of the Light since October of last year has also been uploaded in ebook format. The latest being Tamber and Jameson. All of my ebooks are free to read at major ebook providers. So they're EPUB files. You can go to my publisher, which is Smashwords. Their link is down in my show notes or in the description of the video. Or you can if you just Google my name, I'm out there everywhere. So Google Books, Apple Books, Barnes & Noble. Barnes & Noble gets the biggest downloads. Anywhere where you can download EPUB files. And if you go straight to the publisher and download an EPUB file, you just need an ebook reader like Pocketbook or something app to read the book. Okay? So Spirit Guides of Tessa Locke is one of our new series that started up a few months back. It just started out with bringing in spirit guides. So I'm just trying to give you some background of where this particular series of story is coming from, and then we'll get right into the goods. It's all the good stuff. So that's the thing, though, I think, is people want to jump ahead. And I do this too, but people want to jump ahead to like the story, the cards, or whatever. And it's like you don't realize that the intro is part of the process as well. It gets you in the vibe. It brings you into the circle. It helps you. There's some spiritual teaching involved that will help you on your journey and path. It's all part of the messages. So the good stuff is like everything, which is a ripple effect out to your life as well. And we're going to get into that in a second too. But Spirit Guides of Tessa Locke started out with, I have all these spirit guides that I purchased energetically bound to me in what was really fun spirit guide auctions many, many years back, like 2015, 2016. And a lot of these guides, I wasn't actively like working with them, but they want to work with us. They want to work with me. And so I got the list out, because every time I would go to the spirit guide auction, it was like a private Facebook group. Every time I would go to the auction and get one, I would like put all their descriptions down. And it's how I met my twin flame, is through this, and all of my guides. So they just started coming out in little short stories, short channelings, and this now has evolved into this book, this first in the series, which is what we're going to be reading from today, which is All Paths Lead Home. And we've been following this story. We're now like on chapter 6 or 7. You may not have heard it all, and that's okay. This is still timeless. This episode still exists as a body of teaching and learning and messages for you whenever you cross its path. Just like any of the stories, if you scroll back in the podcast, and believe me, I can tell by the analytics that people go way back in the podcast, and still, for whatever reason, the December ASMR storytelling, the Argyle Inn, which was then called something else, I don't even remember what it was called. That's like the most listened to episode. That and Rose and Sky, which is the third book in the Soulmate series, which is something I really plan on finishing. If I put strong boundaries and make myself finish it this month, then we will have the third in the Soulmates series, which are all mainly like twin flame books. I should call it that instead of soulmates, but anyway, we'll see. So you can read the ebooks for free. We're getting started on this new chapter of All Paths Lead Home right now. Spirit guides are coming in to help us. And I want to acknowledge the ripple effects of this work too. So everything I teach about, everything I talk about has a ripple effect, just like it had a ripple effect to me. So some guide or some teacher shared something with me, which brought in a channeled story, brought in the energy forecast, brought in the pick a cards, whatever, brought in some sort of connection between you and I. And then you kind of like shared the love as a ripple effect of like whatever you learned from me or whatever resonated with you that I might have shared, then now you find yourself sharing it with others, or you find yourself kind of embodying that as part of your journey and part of your path. So you may remember like, oh, I remember she said that, when something comes up in your life. And because you're entering this, I consider to be a sacred container, a TLC for the soul. And whenever you listen to a podcast, or especially if you're following us, because this podcast is a progression from when it started. It's a progression of my journey, which means it's a progression of your journey. You've entered into like the wheel of this journey, this thing called this spiritual path, spirituality, ascension, awakening. So June is a ripple effect of everything we've done since the beginning of the year and beyond, and it just keeps going and progressing. But to condense it down, because it's all like, I see it all as concentric circles, and I can like dial out or I can dial in. And right now I'm going to dial into June, which, thank goodness, I will just say thank goodness. So I was channeling the rest of the 3 chapters that we're going to read here in a minute for All Paths Lead Home. And as I did, I was like, oh, I just feel such levity for June. And I've been hearing that a lot in some of the other June forecasts that I listen to from other way showers. And June for me, which means June for you, because if you're listening here, then part of this is a ripple effect out to you. June is like adventure awaits and fun and relaxation and rest. And I will share at the end what we're going to be doing with the Divine Masculine SOS, the Sisters for the Sword, and just what I think the rest of June might, well, not the rest of June, but like maybe the next 2 or 3 weeks of June are going to look like. So here I am dialing into the June energy forecast. If you didn't listen to it, that's fine, but you should go listen to it because it's really fun. But one of the things that really stood out is I did it on Freaky Fridays, which is a video of the podcast. So every Friday we video the podcast, and I put the video up on YouTube. So we flip the script on the podcast. We do it as a video. We still upload it to the podcast here so you can listen to it. But if you also want to watch it, then you would go to YouTube. But the thing that stood out in the video as I was doing the walk along the riverbank was all the discarded shoes and socks. You guys remember I was like, there's just discarded shoes and socks everywhere. And the river, that river itself is like an adventure little river, like people tube down it and canoe down it, or paddle boat, or I don't know what the heck those things are called, kayak or whatever. And there's places where you can white water raft down it and all that, depending on, it's a very long river. And I remember talking about the adventure side of things, and like people just took off their shoes and socks and jumped into the river and swam away and never came back. And I kept getting shown everything that happens during your journey can be part of your journey if you're tuned into it. There's messages everywhere. And Spirit kept showing me Brighty Isle. And Brighty Isle is another story series in the podcast where that's for the Bringers of the Light series, which will be coming back because I know there's a lot of Bringers of the Light fans. Bringers of the Light has not gone anywhere. It will be coming back. But Brighty Isle was the place that Abigail and Dakar went to kind of get away from it all, to reconnect with each other, to recharge their energy, to review what was going on in their spiritual work, in their service work, because they work for the Bringers of the Light workers, light bringers, right? Okay, these are all metaphors. And I kept getting shown Brighty Isle. I'm like, oh, another adventure. So this month we get to have, thank goodness, like some downtime from so much deep shadow work coming up. There's some levity coming in. There's some adventure coming in. We're going to be doing like some treasure hunts and scavenger hunt type stuff on the podcast. I'm really, really excited because I can even just tell as I'm talking about everything that's come before that. It's been very tiring. And I can tell that the divine masculine really needs some support and some love this morning. Some love and support all the time. But the divine masculine has really been upgrading very, very quickly, much faster than it has taken the feminine to upgrade. So I don't know about you guys, and we're always upgrading. Like, it's never going to stop. I think I said this in another episode, like there's always going to be a retrograde. There's always going to be a portal. There's always going to be a gateway. It's a never ending process. And, as the universe upgrades, so do we. But I just wanted to like acknowledge that those things are happening, but kind of like rise up above that a little bit and like have a higher intention. Like, I just really want to have a fun summer. I want to go have fun. I want to try to get out and do some stuff. Travel was coming up. I said when I poured the cinnamon into my dandy blend the other day on the June forecast, like I was shown my own state, the state of Texas where I live. And it's like, oh, you're going to have some adventure in your own state. And I'm like, oh my God, hope I get to travel somewhere because I'm really like getting bored. I love where I am, but I'm like a wanderlust kind of a person. And I really need to like go somewhere different and have some adventures. So this is all coming up in the next 3 chapters that I'm getting ready to read for you. And I hope you'll feel it. So if you're clairsentient, I think you're going to feel this lighter vibe coming in. And for me, like whenever I get ready to go on a trip or whenever I get ready to travel, it's a whole different vibe. It's a whole different like feeling in my energy field of traveling. And also, as I went to sit down this morning, I'm going to take a picture of this and put it on my Instagram stories. And if you want to follow me on Instagram, I'm just keeping it kind of light over there. But I do put a lot of fun stuff in my stories. I tend to be in my stories a lot more now than I do in the actual feed. But I found as I was picking up trash, doing my service work. So some of you are like, well, what is service work? Service to Gaia. Sometimes the Fae have you picking up trash. And so this is my little kind of sacred spot. Every morning I come to pretty much the same, every morning. Why do I keep saying every morning? Every Sunday I come to the same spot to record the podcast. And it's not a very far walk from where I live, a couple hundred feet, or yards or whatever. And they have me pick up trash all along the way. And believe me, sometimes I can fill up bagfuls, which is so sad. But I have to have strong boundaries around the trash too, because I can go all up into like the trigger, plastic and styrofoam are my triggers. But I found part of a styrofoam cup and I was like, oh, you bastard. And I picked it up and there's like a really cool rooster drawing on there. So roosters are also, the roosters is our spirit guide right now for this episode. And roosters is, what is a rooster? Like it brings on the dawn of a new day with its crowing or whatever you want to call it, signaling like the sun is up. And roosters are a really big spirit totem for Kauai in Hawaii. Oh my gosh, here I go again. But when I went to Kauai, it was a solo trip. Whenever I go to Hawaii, I'm always on usually solo journey on some sort of weird spiritual awakening. And when I got to Kauai, I was freaked out by all the roosters. They're like wild roosters and wild chickens that were everywhere. And when I went to the grocery store, because as soon as I got there, I was like, I need food, because I wanted to eat out, but I didn't want to eat out a whole lot. I wanted to make a lot of my own stuff. And I'm like, I need food. And I went to the grocery store and I was like, first of all, flabbergasted by how much it cost to buy groceries in Hawaii. But there were like roosters all over the parking lot, and they were like under my car and like, going around. And then even at the hotel, you could hear roosters everywhere. Like in the mornings, and there was like this rooster that would like set itself up outside my hotel room window, and it was like making all this noise. And I'm like, oh my God, this place is amazing. I can't believe this exists in reality. So roosters are a big spirit guide. And if you want to know what the rooster means for you, then you can go, you can Google it, or you can just tap into the energy of a rooster. They're super colorful too, some of them, right? I'm going to post some pictures of Kauai in my Instagram stories. That trip was so cool. All right, so finally, after, you guys gonna laugh at me, after 19 minutes, we're getting into the story. So here it is. If you're new, these are channeled stories. I already mentioned that. They just come in via automatic writing, but they're always pertinent to what's going on right now, what's going to happen. They're full of metaphors, and I get to like decode all the metaphors and share them with you all. But part of you inviting in your own spirit guides is to connect in with the metaphors, like have them help you connect into the metaphors and anything I'm missing, just like as if you were looking at a oracle card reading. I tell you, the podcast here is helping you develop your psychic development around your other senses, not just your sight, more your intuition, your inner feeling, your inner knowing, and your clairaudience, because you can't see anything. But like when you see an oracle card, right, you look at it and the reader may say like, oh, this card means this, and I see this, this, and this in the image. And you're like, oh yeah, but look, I also see that over there that she didn't see. So it's the same thing with these stories. I'm going to read them. Spirit that's here with me is going to have me share the metaphors that I think are pertinent for you, the collective. But part of what you can also do is listen yourself and see if you feel or sense or hear anything else that might be standing out for you, something I may have read that I didn't even touch on that may be like, oh yeah, that could be something that's coming up for me. That's the whole point of what these things are. And plus, if you don't really care about all of that and you're a new listener and you're like, what the heck, I just came because it said ASMR storytelling, then they're also like really good, really fun stories. I have to say so myself. Spirit has delivered some really good, really just fun stories, if nothing else. So sit back and relax. We've got 3 little chapters here. It's not going to take us very long. I do want to just say what happened in the previous chapters because I think it's been a few episodes. We last read from this book's sorry, I was reading Wolf Quest. I'm delivering light language. Stop saying sorry. Wolf Quest 2021, which is a few weeks ago. And we had Rutger, who had been led by the lone wolf, which was our spirit guide for Wolf Quest. And if you feel like you need to go on your own little spiritual retreat, then you should go back and listen to Wolf Quest, which that's like 3 or 4 episodes back. And we'll get you all set up. But Rutger is on his own little spiritual retreat. Our divine masculine in our story got led to the river by the lone wolf, got in a boat that was just waiting there for him. Everything he has, everything he needed on the journey has been provided to him. And he's kind of in a timeout right now. We haven't really heard from him. But we got introduced to the fact that somehow he knew Jenna, which Jenna came up in the very first chapter. We're on chapter 8. Jenna came up in chapter 1, I don't know, back in March, I think, 2 or 3 months ago, when the mist vamps first appeared, and took her to the tour. She went up to the Glastonbury tour. She laid down. The mist vamp lulled her into some nap where she ended up going to Avalon and meeting up with Merlin. And Merlin shared some stuff with her about deleting old contracts and deleting old vows. Again, if you've been listening on the podcast, we've had 2 or 3 episodes. There's one about data optimization where we talked about deleting contracts, deleting blood pacts, deleting friendship vows, cleaning up our act, basically cleaning up our energetic act and getting ready to move forward in the new earth now with kind of like a clean slate. Like we need this moving forward. So we did some energetic work. I shared with you how to do that. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, but you know, like I think I might need to clear up my energetic space, then go back and check out the data optimization episode because I share with you exactly what to do there. But Jenna was told she needed to clear up some vows. She didn't have any idea what Merlin was talking about. Merlin went off on his own little vision quest, which I also talked about in the data optimization episode. You can see how all of this is building on each other. And then Jenna came back home. She woke up from her napping at the tour, realized like, wow, I felt I'd been gone for a while because we've been working with her for months. But remember, spirit is timeless. And she went back down to the tour. She's like, I gotta get home. She passed the Drunken Spoon Tavern. And then we finally realized that her and Rutger had a relationship together, and she broke up with him. We don't know why. She kind of feels weird about it. She doesn't understand why she feels weird about it. But she had to get home because her cat was waiting for her, and her cat needed to be fed. And this is where we jump in to chapter 8, leading all up to this cool adventure that's coming up. So now we're into the water's edge. Jenna turned and made her way back home. She had a long weekend to look forward to, and even then, she didn't know if she could return to the job she had before. She went inside the small flat and to Merck's, who indeed had been watching his food bowl quite intently. He meowed loudly upon her entrance and pawed at her leg with his soft foot. She didn't have the heart to tell him she was out of his favorite food. Rather than disappoint him again, she opened the small apartment-sized refrigerator and pulled out the smoked salmon she had been saving for her own dinner. Her cell rang, and she answered, hoping it would be Rutger. Why, she didn't know. She had clearly broken it off with him. It was her mom, and she sighed softly at the sound of her voice. "Dear, you sound sad again," her mother said, sighing herself at the thought that her only daughter might not be happy with her life. "I'm fine, Mum," Jenna said, but I think I need a vacation." Marjorie Lee knew when she saw her daughter last that something was up. "Look, dear," Marjorie said softly, "I was saving this for your birthday, but it seems you might need this right now." "What is it?" Jenna said, perking up a little. Her mother always gave the best gifts. "I bought you a ticket on the Tall Winds," Marjorie said, pretty proud at herself. "It's an open ticket, so you can use it whenever you want." The Tall Winds! Jenna's heart leapt. The best tall ship on the North Coast. "It's perfect, Mum. Thank you so much. I think I really need this," she said, smiling to herself as she spooned smoked salmon into Merck's bowl. For the first time in a long time, she felt excited about something. Same here. "I'm going to call them as soon as we finish our chat," Jenna said, hoping her mother wouldn't be long-winded. "Well, that's just fine," Marjorie said, breathing a sigh of relief. "There's one other thing you should know," she said with a sly smile. "I bought another ticket, unless you want to take someone special along." "Mom, what do you mean? Why would you do that?" Jenna said, her mind quickly flashing to Rutger. "I don't know anyone that I could take along." "You should use that ticket for yourself," Jenna said, twirling her strawberry blonde hair in her fingers. "I'm sure you'll figure it out," Marjorie said again, feeling pretty good about her decision. She knew more about relationships than she was letting on. And one thing she knew was love. She had, after all, been married to the love of her life for the past 40 years. "Promise me you'll consider asking him," Marjorie said, wishing that Jenna would. Marjorie she actually felt that Rutger was the son she never had. And she blushed at her matchmaking. I don't know, Mom," Jenna said, feeling butterflies in her stomach. "Should I call him?" Chapter 9, All the Right Things. Jenna ended the call with her mother, and sat down in the soft wingback chair. Sunlight dappled the room, and there was a little wind. I realized that. It's freaking wind. Dappled the room, and she realized that she had gone longer than she originally thought. The weird dream she had at the tour had come across her mind again, and she lay her head back on the chair. She drifted into a light nap, and the words of the Merlin again came back to her about fixing old vows. What is he talking about, she wondered behind her closed eyelids. She dreamt, and in the dream she saw herself as a young nun. She had gone to the convent after she had lost the baby. She had vowed then that she would never have children again. And once the nunnery had accepted her, she had made the vow to never love a man again. It had all been too painful, and her frail frame and weakened emotional state had brought her to this decision. The dream ended, and Jenna woke with a start. She was holding something in her hand. But where had that come from, she wondered, looking down at the black cloth in her hand. She breathed a sad sigh as her mind again went to Rutger and then the Tall Winds. She grabbed her cell and dialed the number her mother had given her. "Hello, yes?" She said, looking at photos of the amazing interior of the tall ship. I was wondering if you have any space open for the next cruise, she asked the nice young girl who answered. How many will be traveling? The customer rep asked her, looking forward to the next cruise on the calendar. It would leave port on the eve of the next full moon. I don't know, there's a hint there for somebody. There's something there for somebody about that. It would leave port on the eve of the next full moon, which for us, if you're listening to this when it drops, is the big old solar eclipse, a full moon in Gemini, my sign, coming up in the next couple of weeks. But this is timeless, so it could be that something's happening on the eve of whatever next full moon is coming up for you. So how many will be traveling? Just one, Jenna said, and then for some strange reason corrected herself. Maybe 2 will be traveling, she said, feeling weird about saying that. What was she thinking? She'd been the one to break it off with him. What made her think that Rutger would drop everything and forgive her to go on some tall ship cruise? Yes, miss, we have space for 2, leaving next weekend, the rep said. Should I save it for you and your traveling companion? Again, Jenna almost said to forget the 2-berth room in favor of the more spacious 1-person room. And again, something tugged at her throat and almost moved her mouth itself. Yes, please, I'll take the 2-person room, she said, swallowing back the fear that rose up in her now. Surely he would not accept her offer. That is, if he would even talk to her. It's all booked, Miss Lee, the rep said. And the name of your companion, please? She said, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. Jenna swallowed hard again. Rutger O'Malley, she said, as a single tear dropped from her eye. Thank you, Miss Lee. We'll see you and Mr. O'Malley next Saturday morning early. Please be here at the dock before 7 a.m. We'll send you all the information to make your journey more eventful. Is there anything else I can do for you? Jenna wiped the tear from her cheek. She didn't know how she was going to make this happen, but she had some weird sense of deja vu, like she had already done it. The Merlin's wicked smile flashed before her eyes. What had happened during that dream up at the tour? No, I'm good, Jenna said as the rep emailed her the travel information and they ended the call. Jenna had her work cut out for her. How was she going to track him down, talk him into forgiving her silliness, and get him to agree to go on a cruise with her in less than a week's time? She didn't know, but she did suddenly feel like trying. She didn't want to be alone forever again. She had her work cut out for her, she thought, getting a feeling of power in her chest. But first to the business at hand. She needed cat food and a good dinner out. Okay, do you want me to stop? Okay, they want me to keep going, but there's so much in that chapter right there. I think we may even be coming back to that. Maybe in Sisters for the Sword. I think we're going to have to dive into that one deeper. But let's move on to chapter 10, the Selkie. And so what's happening here is chapter 9 is for some of you out there. There are some past life vows and stuff we need to work on, but they want us to work on it during Sisters for the Sword and not now. So for those of you that feel like chapter 9 really spoke to me, then the next episode we'll do is Sisters for the Sword. And we're going to work on clearing some of these weird past life vows, because what happened here for Jenna is in a past life, some crap happened. She made some stupid vows that, meant something to her at the time. But now she realizes, I think these are spilling over into my now life and kind of wrecking things with this guy that I really like. So note to self, we're coming back with that with Sisters for the Sword. Quickly we'll work on that in Sisters for the Sword, because there's something else that's really fun that's a surprise that I don't want to share with you yet, but it has to do with a scavenger hunt. So that's what we'll do next, is that episode. All right, but I want to continue. This is our last one, because our spirit guide for June, 2 of them, is the Sea, which is coming up on this tall ships cruise that they're going to go on here in I don't know what chapter. And Selkies, our Selkie Dartmoor, was also our spirit guide for June. And so chapter 10 is the Selkie. Dartmoor shivered as she lay on the sand. It was the 4th time this season that she had shifted, and she was tired. She lay the old skin behind the same large rock that she usually did, but this time she felt eyes upon her, mortal eyes. She pulled out the backpack that she had so carefully hidden. On the top of the pack there lay a folded paper. She had been found out. In careful scripting, the note read, "In more ways than one, I envy you. Want to be like you even. But this is my territory. Watch out. Take heed, and don't allow yourself to be seen." She folded the note. It was her guardian that spoke to her first. "Dartmoor, there are those that will never understand," the old walrus said into her mind. "Burn the note and banish those fears. You are safe regardless of what they would have you believe," the mentor said to her telepathically. She pulled her wet body up off the sand to dress in the same clothes she always wore. Bell-bottom jeans, a tank top of gold yarn, suede sandals, and the gold medallion that was given to her by the pirate Jean Lafitte. She had work to do, and some slightly threatening note wasn't going to stop her. She needed to attend an event, and that was where she had been told that she would meet up with him. And when she did, there would be hell to pay. Okay, guys, this chapter kind of freaked me out a little bit. I was like, what do you mean there'll be hell to pay? What's going to happen? But they really had me more, they were like, no, like, just calm down. I always get a little nervous when, like, dark energy comes into my stories, but it always works out in the end. Even with the Thunder Rose collection, I'm gonna have to start moving around. Even with the Thunder Rose collection, I got a little nervous in Moxie and Roses when we brought through the Screech. It was very scary, but everything worked out just fine. So what they had me focus on here, though, in this chapter was Jean Lafitte. So this is where the adventure part comes in, and this is what's going to start happening for you as well with these concentric circles that I'm talking about, is you're going to start being led on an adventure. It may not be the same one as me, but I'm going to take you on mine regardless. So Jean Lafitte, I knew he was a pirate, but I didn't know who he was. And I looked him up after I wrote this. They're like, just go look at him. So somehow his spirit, and he is was a real person. I went and looked him up, and lo and behold, he was a pirate in the late 1700s, right around where I live, in the New Orleans area, but specifically spent time on Galveston Island. I'm getting such chills, which is where I grew up as a little girl. Well, I spent a lot of time all in different places because my father was in the Coast Guard, and so every couple of years we would go to a different coastline, because Coast Guard, you have to work on the water. But Galveston Island is where I spent a lot of my childhood. I would say maybe like 3 or 4 years, because I would go back to, and my dad lived on the island for a while when I was a teenager, and I would go there a lot. I would spend a lot of time there, and suddenly out of nowhere, a couple months ago, Galveston Island showed up in my Instagram feed. And I've been told by Spirit that I've been holding an Atlantean grid line from the I'm getting so many chills, from the Gulf of Mexico all the way over to New Mexico, and then that line continues on to Sedona and out. And someone then shared with me when I said that they built, it's been a long time since I've been to Galveston Island. It's been totally revitalized, which I'm really excited, because when my dad lived there, it was really kind of like getting kind of yucky. But the boardwalk, the seawall, all these fun places, but they built some pyramids there as part of this amusement park kind of thing or whatever. And the pyramids are supposed to be representative of the Atlantean Egyptian times, it's all connecting, you guys. So I'm thinking I'm being led on a little short trip to Galveston Island, which I hope so, because I really need to see the ocean, like, really bad. And even though their ocean is not very beautiful, it's actually kind of brown and dirty. For some reason, I'm being led back to that space. There's a big divine masculine energy calling out to me there, but there's also adventure, because Jean Lafitte was, the stories say, that he's got treasure there. He lived on the island for a while, 3 or 4 years, as part of his stuff. But he wasn't like, I think we've romanticized some of the pirates. Apparently he wasn't like the romanticized version of a pirate. He was more kind of like, I don't want to describe him, because I haven't really tapped into his energy too much, but it sounds like he might be leading us, and the divine masculine, for some reason, might be leading us on a little adventure to the water's edge, which also came up as one of these chapters. So for Divine Masculine SOS, I haven't forgotten about you guys. I have something really cool and fun for you. They wanted me to keep it a surprise, but it has to do with you following a treasure map, and I get to deliver that to you guys in Divine Masculine SOS. This is for your own personal journey. It's going to lead you, each one of you, someplace different depending on where you're at. But we get to do, here comes this, oh gosh, this person. Okay, hold on, you guys. This is a repeating metaphor. Sometimes when I record the podcast, there's this car that it's the same vehicle. It drives through. It's so odd. It's like a silver truck. It drives through where I'm kind of off in the distance. All it does is it does a circle, and then it drives back out. Like, well, I don't know what you're doing, what that was. First of all, strong boundaries, because I'm like, what are you doing? But it's like the same one every time. So strange. I don't know who that is, but it's silver. So silver has a metaphor, and it's a guy driving. And that circle means something. It's like a circle back, circle round. It was funny that it came up just as I was talking about the Divine Masculine SOS. So silver, I have to tap into the color silver. It means something, but we'll talk about that during Divine Masculine SOS, because I think this episode's getting really long. Yeah, we're on 40 minutes. Okay, so I have some really fun stuff for June, because I know you guys have been working hard. You deserve a break, and you get some treasure map to follow. I'm really, really excited about that. All right, and if we do end up going to Galveston Island, which, okay, SCRIBD, I need to manifest this Galveston Island trip. I don't even know how far it is from where I live now. I think it's probably a couple hours drive. It's not too bad. Then take a little weekend trip to Galveston Island and do some treasure hunting and scavenger hunting there. And I'll definitely bring you guys with me. All right, you guys, that is all I have for now. I don't know what's happening with Dartmoor. I have to say, I'm like, what? Is she in danger? Oh my God, what's happening? So something's going on there, and we will talk about all of these things, bringing them into the different episodes for the month of June, and definitely coming back to the next chapters in this story next Sunday. So I want to thank you all so much for joining me, for listening, for sticking it out, for being on your own journey, for doing all the work. And we deserve this month that's coming up that I think is going to be so much more fun. So we can get a break, just a little bit of a break before we have to start like doing more stuff again. All right, guys, thank you so much for listening. We will see you all again soon in the next episode. Take care. This episode has been brought to you by Mugwort Mavens. You know who you are. All those not so normal people out there who just are a little bit more magical than some of our other worldly folks. Mugwort Mavens is here to support you with whatever your magical needs are, be it a sprig of mugwort, a mandrake root, or a blessed belladonna flower. Come to Mugwort Mavens for your magical needs.